Welcome, dreamer, to the world of ancient Greece. A place where myths breathe softly through time, where gods and spirits shape the night and guide the day. This is our series on Greek myths for sleep. And tonight, you are listening to the fourth part of our journey. In our last story, we wandered into the gentle presence of Hypnos, the god of sleep and peaceful rest. And now, we drift even deeper, into the realm of the Oneiroi, the shadowed spirits who carry the dreams of night. The night is soft, the stars are gentle, and the ancient world stirs once more with stories almost forgotten. Tonight, we journey into the quiet shadows of Greek mythology, where the edges of dream and waking life blur. These are not tales of thunderbolts, battles, or the blinding light of Olympus. Instead, we move into the silence of sleep, to meet the spirits who drift unseen through the minds of mortals. They are the Oneiroi, the bringers of dreams, whose whispers shaped nights in the ancient imagination. The Greeks believed that dreams were not just random images, but visitors from beyond, carrying meanings wrapped in mist. In the darkness, they could offer guidance, warnings, or simple illusions. And so, the Oneiroi became the quiet messengers of the night. Each one slipped through the veil of sleep, touching the minds of kings, peasants, and wanderers alike, leaving behind fragments of stories that faded with the dawn. To the ancients, this was more than rest. It was contact with the unseen. The world of sleep was thought to be a realm of its own, connected to the earth but also to the deep underworld where mysteries resided. The Oneiroi were said to rise from that place, shadowy and countless, moving like waves of black-winged birds. They drifted silently, never seen in the waking world, yet their presence was felt with every dream remembered in the morning. Their domain was not the bright stage of gods and heroes, but the quiet theater behind closed eyes. The Greeks imagined the Oneiroi as children of the goddess Nyx, the primordial night. Nyx herself was older than Zeus, older even than the Titans, a presence of pure darkness from which many beings emerged. Among them were sleep, death, and dreams. The Oneiroi belonged to this family, and like their mother, they were both beautiful and terrifying. They brought comfort with gentle visions, but they could also unsettle the soul with nightmares that lingered long after waking. Three names stood out among the countless dream spirits: Morpheus, Phobetor, and Phantasos. These three brothers gave shape to what the Greeks thought dreams could be. Morpheus was the most familiar, shaping human forms and voices within dreams. He could mimic the face of a friend or the sound of a loved one, making his visions hauntingly real. When someone dreamed of speaking to a long-lost companion, it was Morpheus at work. Phobetor, in contrast, carried the darker side of sleep. His domain was filled with beasts and monsters, the wild visions that jolted mortals awake in fear. Lions, serpents, and strange, clawed creatures were his gifts, often seen as omens of danger or unrest. Yet even nightmares had meaning in the ancient world. They were not always cruel, but warnings hidden beneath frightful forms, reminding dreamers of dangers that lay ahead. Phantasos, the third brother, brought dreams of the unreal, visions of landscapes, rivers, skies, and things that could never exist in waking life. In his realm, one might walk upon silver seas or wander through forests of glass. The Greeks believed his illusions captured the strange beauty of imagination, where the mind was free to wander without rules. Through Phantasos, dreams became art, surreal and untethered. These three stood as the faces of the countless Oneiroi, but they were not alone. Behind them stretched an endless host of dream spirits, each one silent, faceless, and fleeting. They passed through the world of sleep like shadows over water, leaving ripples that would vanish by morning. The Greeks knew that not all dreams were remembered, and so they thought that most of the Oneiroi moved unnoticed, their work fading with the first light of dawn. In temples and homes, people sometimes sought meaning in these nightly visitors. Dreams could be omens from the gods, or messages wrapped in metaphor. An anxious ruler might look to his dreams for answers about wars or treaties, while a farmer might wonder about the meaning of seeing his fields flooded in sleep. The Oneiroi, unseen, provided answers in riddles. It was for mortals to interpret them. And so, to close one's eyes at night was never simply rest in the ancient world. It was opening a door into a hidden place where spirits moved quietly. Every dream carried a weight, every nightmare a warning, and every vision a spark of wonder. In this way, sleep itself became sacred, a nightly ritual where mortals brushed against the mysteries of the divine. The Oneiroi were not worshipped in great temples, but they lived in every bedchamber, in every sigh of slumber, in every restless night. The Greeks often wondered where exactly dreams came from, and so myth gave them a home. It was said that the Oneiroi lived near the edges of the underworld, close to the land of Hades, but not fully within his dark kingdom. Their dwelling was imagined as a great cave, where no sun could ever enter, and where silence hung heavy in the air. From this place, the dream spirits took flight each night, spreading across the world like shadows on the wind. This cave was guarded by twin gates, which the poets often spoke of in hushed tones. One was the Gate of Horn, through which true dreams passed, visions that carried real messages and meanings. The other was the Gate of Ivory, and from it came deceptive dreams, illusions meant to confuse or lead astray. Even in the calmness of night, the Greeks knew that not every dream should be trusted. Some were gifts, others were tests, and still others were simply empty echoes. Morpheus, Phobetor, and Phantasos were said to choose their paths carefully when stepping through these gates. Morpheus was most often linked to the Gate of Horn, for his dreams felt so vivid and truthful. Yet he, too, could sometimes pass through Ivory, leaving mortals with visions that misled. This balance of truth and illusion reflected the uncertainty of life itself, how humans could never be entirely sure whether their nights offered guidance or folly. The great poet Homer hinted at these dream gates in the Odyssey, where dreams visited heroes during their journeys. For the ancient Greeks, this meant that the unseen realm of the Oneiroi was not separate from life's great adventures. A dream could inspire courage, warn of danger, or reveal paths hidden by day. In this way, the dream spirits shaped the fates of mortals, silently influencing choices through whispers in the dark. Yet the Oneiroi were not worshipped as gods in the usual sense. They had no great temples, no public festivals, no sacrifices in their name. Instead, they lived quietly in the private world of each sleeper. The Greeks believed that sleep was a form of vulnerability, a moment when the soul loosened its grip on the body, and in that liminal space, the Oneiroi moved freely. Their power was intimate, invisible, and constant. Philosophers, too, pondered their role. Some thought dreams were fragments of the day's thoughts, stitched together by the Oneiroi. Others argued they were messages from higher gods, carried by these spirits as faithful messengers. Whatever the truth, dreams held a sacred mystery, and the Oneiroi remained their unseen hands, shaping visions with careful artistry. In this way, they were both poets and painters of the night. The ancients often spoke of sleep and death as brothers, and so the Oneiroi were linked closely to both. Hypnos, the god of sleep, was their kin, and Thanatos, the god of peaceful death, walked beside him. This family of night spirits showed how fragile the line was between dreaming and dying, between rest and eternal silence. Every time one closed their eyes, they entered a world that was halfway to eternity, guided by beings who lived beyond mortal comprehension. The black wings of the Oneiroi were often described as vast and countless, covering the world as evening fell. In art, they were rarely shown, but in poetry, their presence was unmistakable. They were like ravens of the night, sweeping silently across the sky. When dawn came, they folded their wings, retreating back into shadow, leaving the waking world to its brightness once again. To the Greeks, this cycle was eternal, a nightly rhythm of arrival and departure. The role of the Oneiroi was not to decide fate, but to illuminate it. They were not rulers of destiny like the Moirai, nor fierce enforcers like the Furies. Instead, they were subtle, working in the quietest hours, suggesting, hinting, and nudging the soul with visions. Dreams did not command, but they lingered, shaping thoughts long after waking. This gentle power was part of their mystery, making them both feared and revered. And so, to the ancients, sleep was never simply an escape from toil. It was a journey into another realm, where spirits of dream moved invisibly through the night. Each dream was a crossing, each vision a reminder that the mind was not fully one's own. The Oneiroi held the keys to that hidden world, opening doors to truths and illusions alike, and then vanishing before the first morning bird began to sing. In the hush of ancient nights, Many believed the Oneiroi carried not only visions but emotions. A dream could soothe a weary heart, filling it with hope, or it could unsettle the spirit with lingering unease. Morpheus's gentle illusions could bring comfort to a grieving widow, as she dreamed of her husband's smile once more. Yet Phobetor's fearful images could stir a warrior to caution, preparing him for battles unseen. Dreams were a language without words, and the Oneiroi were its quiet translators. Priests of certain temples claimed to read these messages, turning dreams into prophecies. In the sanctuary of Asclepius, the god of healing, sleepers lay upon sacred beds in hopes that a dream might reveal their cure. The Oneiroi, whether knowingly or not, became part of this ritual. Their whispers might show a healing herb, or a vision of the god himself offering guidance. To those who awoke with clarity, the dream was seen as divine favor. But just as often, dreams were tangled and confusing, their meanings uncertain. The Greeks did not expect them to be simple. A dream might be a puzzle, a riddle written in symbols, waiting to be unraveled. A broken spear might mean betrayal. A flowing river might speak of change. Through this mystery, the Oneiroi mirrored life itself, where truth was never handed plainly but must be sought with patience. Poets and storytellers wove the dream spirits into their works, not as main characters but as shadows behind the stage. When a hero received a vision in the night, the audience knew that the Oneiroi had passed silently through his sleep. Their role was always delicate, always fleeting. Yet their presence gave depth to stories, reminding listeners that no deed of daylight stood apart from the mysteries of the night. It is striking to imagine how personal these spirits felt. Zeus might hurl thunderbolts from Olympus, Poseidon might churn the seas, but the Oneiroi visited every mortal, every night, without exception. They were gods of the private world, entering chambers without doors, speaking in dreams that no one else could hear. In this way, they were closer to mortals than many of the grand Olympians, dwelling in the secret space of thought and memory. Some thinkers argued that the Oneiroi did not always come willingly. Instead, they could be summoned by the power of the soul itself. A restless mind might call Phobetor without realizing it, while a peaceful heart might invite Morpheus. Dreams, they believed, were a mirror of the inner self, and the spirits simply answered what they found there. The cave of dreams, then, was not only beneath the earth, it was within each human being. In their countless forms, the Oneiroi gave a sense of order to the chaos of sleep. Nightmares were not simply torment but lessons, reminders of fears that needed facing. Gentle dreams were not mere illusions but comforts, blessings to ease the burden of mortal life. In every case, the dream spirits acted as silent companions, walking alongside humans in a realm where no other guide could follow. The ancient playwrights sometimes hinted at the danger of trusting dreams too much. For visions could deceive, and many were born of the Gate of Ivory. A king who believed too strongly in his nightly images might lead his people to ruin. A soldier who ignored them altogether might walk blindly into danger. In this balance, the Oneiroi revealed themselves as tricksters as much as helpers, never allowing mortals to grow too comfortable with certainty. And yet, despite this risk, people longed for dreams. The weary farmer closing his eyes after a day's labor, the mother rocking her child to sleep, the sailor drifting beneath the stars all knew that dreams would come. It was a nightly visitation that required no prayer, no offering, no temple. The Oneiroi belonged to everyone, from kings to beggars, for all slept, and all dreamed. Thus the Greeks lived in constant dialogue with the spirits of sleep, never seeing them, yet always feeling their touch. Every dream was a thread in the great tapestry of life, woven by the Oneiroi's unseen hands. And when morning broke, leaving only fragments of memory, mortals understood that the spirits had retreated once more, leaving them to wonder what truth lay behind the night's quiet whispers. In time, the Greeks began to see dreams not only as messages but as bridges. They linked the mortal world with the divine, the living with the dead, the known with the unknown. Through the Oneiroi, it seemed possible to touch something beyond life, if only for a moment. A dream of an ancestor might bring comfort, while a vision of a god might inspire awe. These encounters, though fleeting, felt as real as daylight. Some stories even told of dreams that changed the course of history. A general might alter his plans after seeing Phobetor's fearful warnings in the night. A statesman might find courage after Morpheus showed him a vision of triumph. While no one could prove these dreams true, the ancients believed they carried weight, for the Oneiroi themselves were children of night, and night revealed truths that daylight often hid. Yet for all their power, the Oneiroi remained shadows, never basking in worship like the Olympian gods. Their influence was subtle, woven into the fabric of human life so gently that few paused to notice it. This was their mystery. They were everywhere, yet nowhere. Present in every dream, but never seen with waking eyes. They ruled a kingdom without altars, a realm without temples, and still their presence endured. Writers of the ancient world often spoke of dreams as wings of the soul. At night, they said, the soul would rise from the body and travel, guided by the Oneiroi. Sometimes it wandered nearby, sometimes it soared far away. On returning, it left behind visions, memories of its journey. The dream spirits, in this view, were guardians of that fragile flight, keeping the soul safe until it returned to the body with the dawn. There was also a poetic beauty in how the Oneiroi were imagined. They were not creatures of bright armor or thunder, but of silence and shadow. Their black wings stirred no air, their steps made no sound. They slipped through doors, past walls, unseen by all but the dreamer. To speak of them was to speak of mystery itself, of things felt but never grasped. The ancients embraced this vagueness, knowing that dreams, like mist, could never be held tightly. Even today, we recognize something timeless in this idea. Dreams still puzzle us, still comfort us, still frighten us. We no longer speak of Morpheus or Phantasos, yet their presence lingers in the language of the night. We say a dream feels real, or strange, or troubling, and we wonder where it comes from. Perhaps the ancients were not so far from truth when they said that spirits moved through our sleep. The connection between dreams and art was also deeply felt. Painters, poets, and sculptors often credited their inspiration to visions born in slumber. The Oneiroi were muses as much as messengers, gifting mortals with images too strange for waking life. A sculptor might dream of a perfect figure, a poet might hear lines whispered in the dark. Through dreams, the unseen touched the world of creation, and beauty was born. In this sense, the Oneiroi gave more than omens, they gave imagination itself. They were the guardians of the unreal, protectors of visions that transcended reason. When Phantasos filled a dream with landscapes of glass and silver rivers, he gave birth to wonder. When Morpheus placed a familiar voice in the mind, he gave birth to longing. Through such gifts, the dream spirits shaped not only fate but the very soul of culture. The ancients often rose in the morning with fragments of these worlds still clinging to their minds. A fleeting image, a fading voice, a half-remembered path. Such remnants were seen as proof that the Oneiroi had indeed passed by, leaving their traces like footprints in sand. By midday, the dream was gone, but its echo remained, altering thought in ways too quiet to name. And so, every night was a passage, every dream a visitation. The Oneiroi did not ask to be remembered, nor did they demand worship. Yet their work endured in silence, shaping lives without ever revealing themselves. To sleep was to surrender to them, willingly or not, and to wake was to emerge from their care. They were the shadows of night's great family, silent companions of every mortal life. As centuries passed, the Oneiroi drifted quietly through the minds of poets and philosophers, their shadows lingering in every discussion of sleep and meaning. Some thinkers began to imagine that dreams were not sent by gods at all, but by the Oneiroi alone, spirits who carried no agenda except to remind mortals of the vastness of the unseen. Whether comforting or frightening, each dream was part of a greater rhythm, one that linked the soul to the eternal night. The Roman world, inheriting much from Greece, also spoke of Morpheus and his brothers, carrying their myths into new generations. In their writings, dreams were still treated as sacred messengers, though now dressed in Latin words and Roman imagery. Still, the essence remained the same, that when one drifted into sleep, they entered a realm shared with spirits whose wings were older than nations, older than empires. And as empires rose and fell, the mystery of dreams never disappeared. Even as temples crumbled and myths faded into legend, mortals still closed their eyes each night and surrendered to visions. The names of the Oneiroi may have grown quiet, but their presence lived on in the timeless act of dreaming. In every age, across every culture, humans continued to wonder what their dreams truly meant, and who, or what, sent them. The Greeks, though, had given dreams a story, and stories give meaning to mystery. By naming Morpheus, Phobetor, and Phantasos, they offered shapes to the shapeless, faces to the formless. They made dreams feel less like accidents and more like gifts, sometimes comforting, sometimes haunting, always significant. Through the Oneiroi, they placed the night into a frame of understanding, turning silence into myth. When night descended over the ancient world, it was more than darkness. It was a time when unseen visitors stirred, when the cave of dreams opened its gates, and spirits took flight. Sleep was not emptiness but encounter, a nightly crossing into another realm. For the Greeks, this made every night both beautiful and uncertain, a gentle surrender to powers that could not be controlled but could always be felt. Some feared the Oneiroi, especially Phobetor with his claws and shadows. Yet fear was not seen as wholly bad. To dream of beasts and monsters was to confront the lurking dangers of life in a safe, distant form. Nightmares became teachers, though their lessons were hard. In this way, the Oneiroi reminded mortals that even darkness could hold wisdom, that even shadows could reveal truths. Others, however, welcomed the presence of Morpheus. To see a familiar face, to hear a beloved voice, was a blessing beyond measure. These dreams brought comfort across distances, bridging the gap between the living and the lost. A traveler could dream of home, a widow could dream of her husband, and in those moments, the ache of absence was softened. Morpheus, the shaper of human forms, was perhaps the gentlest of all spirits of the night. Phantasos, too, offered gifts beyond reckoning. His surreal visions reminded mortals that the mind could wander farther than the body ever could. In his landscapes of wonder, imagination stretched beyond the limits of reality. Such dreams were not meant to be interpreted or feared, but simply experienced. They reminded mortals of the beauty in impossibility, of the art that lay hidden within sleep. Together, these brothers embodied the spectrum of human experience in dreams, fear, comfort, wonder. They were not rulers to be worshipped, but companions who shaped the hidden hours of every life. Though countless other Oneiroi filled the night, it was these three who came to symbolize the mystery of dreaming itself. Through them, the Greeks gave voice to the silent realm of sleep. And so, every night carried both promise and uncertainty. To dream was to open oneself to the Oneiroi, to trust in their shadows and illusions. No mortal could escape them, for no mortal could escape sleep. This inevitability gave them a quiet power, a presence more constant than any god of Olympus. For where the Olympians ruled by thunder and storm, the Oneiroi ruled by silence, by whispers, by wings that vanished with the dawn. The ancients may have feared the Oneiroi, but they also found comfort in them. Night after night, these spirits of dream reminded mortals that rest was never empty. Even in darkness, there was company, and even in silence, there was story. The dreams they carried were not always clear, but clarity was never their true purpose. They existed to remind humans of mystery, that not everything needed to be understood to be meaningful. As dawn approached, the Oneiroi always withdrew. Their wings folded, their voices faded, and their shadows slipped once more into the cave of sleep. Mortals awoke to the brightness of day, carrying only fragments of their nightly visitations. A whisper of a face, a half-remembered sound, an echo of a place that never existed. These traces, though fragile, often stayed with the dreamer, shaping moods and thoughts long after the sun had risen. The Greeks embraced this rhythm, accepting that not all could be explained. For them, life was richer when touched by mystery, and dreams were the closest mortals could come to touching the divine. In every night's surrender, they found connection not just with the gods, but with the vastness of existence itself. The Oneiroi were their companions in this quiet journey, ever present, ever unseen. Even now, when we close our eyes and drift into dreams, it is easy to imagine that Morpheus, Phobetor, and Phantasos still linger. Their ancient wings brush against our minds, carrying visions that confuse, comfort, and inspire. We no longer name them as the Greeks did, but the experience is the same. Dreams remain timeless, and the mystery of the night endures. In the stillness of your own rest, perhaps Perhaps you too will feel their touch. Perhaps you will wander through landscapes no map can show, hear voices that no waking ear could capture, or face shadows that vanish with the dawn. These are the gifts of the Oneiroi, the eternal visitors of sleep, who shape the hidden hours of our lives in silence. So tonight, as you let your thoughts grow softer and your breathing slow, imagine those ancient wings unfolding in the quiet. Imagine the cave of dreams opening, its gates of horn and ivory casting their shadows. The Oneiroi drift outward, countless and silent, carrying visions to every corner of the world. You, too, will be visited, as all mortals are, for dreams spare no one. The story of the Oneiroi reminds us that even in stillness, the mind journeys. That in the calm of night, there are worlds unseen yet deeply felt. The Greeks, in their wisdom, gave us these spirits to explain the mystery. Whether they are real or not matters less than the beauty of the tale, and the comfort it brings in knowing that every dream is part of something vast and eternal. And so we reach the end of tonight's story. The Oneiroi return to their cave, their wings folding gently into silence. May their presence linger with you as you drift into your own sleep, carrying you softly toward dreams that comfort and calm. Let their ancient mystery be a balm for your rest, a reminder that the night itself holds beauty in its shadows. Thank you for sharing this quiet journey into the myths of Greece. If you found peace in these stories, let your heart carry them gently into your own dreams tonight. And as the morning comes, may you rise renewed, with the echoes of the Oneiroi still whispering softly in your memory. In our next story, we will wander deeper into the realm of Greek myth, to meet another ancient spirit of the night. We will explore Hypnos, the god of sleep and peaceful rest, the brother of death and the gentle hand that closes mortal eyes. Until then, may the Oneiroi guard your slumber, and may your dreams be kind.